The fluorescent light flickered like a dying pulse, and the hospital ceiling blurred into a haze of white tiles. I woke up gasping, throat dry as desert dust, with a nurse clutching my wrist like she didn't expect it to throb. "Mr. Johnson, you're back," she whispered, her voice soft but heavy, like she was delivering news she didn't want to carry. I blinked hard, trying to piece together where I was. Seattle, St. Mary's Hospital, room 312. The beeping monitors and sterile smell of antiseptic grounded me, but nothing prepared me for the void where my wife, Emily, should have been. I croaked something that might have been water. The nurse nodded, adjusting tubes with practiced efficiency. "You've been out for 15 hours, Mr. Johnson. You gave us quite a scare." 15 hours. My mind reeled, grasping at fragments. The sharp pain in my chest, the kitchen floor rushing up to meet me, Emily's name on my lips as the world went dark. I didn't remember much, but I remembered her not being there when the paramedics came. The nurse handed me a cup, and I sipped, the cold water stinging my cracked lips. On the bedside table sat a brown paper bag labeled "Personal Effects." My wallet, keys, wedding ring in a plastic pouch, and my phone, its screen cracked but glowing faintly. I powered it on, the battery at 3%, the blue loading icon swirling like it was mocking me. One unread message waited. From Emily. My heart thudded, not with hope but with dread. I tapped it open. "I deserve this. We were so scared." "No, are you okay?" "No, I love you." Just those words, cold and final, like she'd written them knowing I might not wake up to read them. My grip tightened on the phone, the cracked glass biting into my palm. The nurse caught my stare, her eyes softening with pity. "She left this morning," she said, almost apologetically. "Signed your discharge papers and said she had an appointment." An appointment. The word landed like a stone. With a realtor? A divorce lawyer? Or maybe that personal trainer she'd been texting, the one with a gym bro smile and a side hustle in false promises. I nodded, my face a mask, but inside, something shifted, cold, precise, like the click of a lock turning. 17 years of marriage, and Emily thought she knew every move I'd make. She was wrong. I scanned the room. No flowers, no card, just a dry turkey sandwich on a tray and my vitals chart clipped to the bed. The hallway outside was quiet, save for the occasional squeak of a gurney. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting her to walk in, to say it was a mistake, that she'd been there all night. But the chair beside me was empty, the kind of empty that screamed louder than any argument we'd ever had. Emily hadn't just left the hospital. She'd left me. And not just me, but the life we'd built, the promises we'd made, the Sundays we spent cheering for the Seahawks, her toes tucked under my leg for warmth. I thought back to the last year, the slow rot that had crept into our home. It wasn't loud, not the kind of collapse you see coming. It was subtle, a laugh that landed too late, a kiss that grazed air instead of lips, dinners where we stared at screens instead of each other. I'd ignored it, thinking I was keeping the peace. But peace doesn't smell like someone else's cologne on your wife's coat. It doesn't come with bank alerts for $300, then $500, then $1,000 siphoned to an account in her maiden name. I'd seen the signs, but I told myself not to be that guy, the jealous husband, the one who checks phones and questions fresh air walks during halftime. Now, lying in that hospital bed, I wished I'd been that guy sooner. The nurse returned, offering toast I didn't want. "Your brother's on his way," she said, her voice a gentle nudge back to reality. I nodded again, the motion mechanical. My brother, Mike, would ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. Where was she? Why didn't she stay? I could already hear his jaw clench, his muttered curses. But I didn't need his anger. I needed time. Because while Emily thought she'd walked away free, she'd forgotten one thing. Freedom leaves a trail, and I was already picking up the pieces. 3 months ago, I'd updated our life insurance policies after a company-wide audit. I'd slipped in a clause, Medical incapacitation triggers a beneficiary reassessment. Emily didn't notice I'd removed her from 2 policies. She was too busy planning her exit, booking wellness retreats that cost more than our mortgage payment. I'd also hired Mark, a private investigator with a face like a retired boxer and the patience of a saint. Cash payments, one instruction: if I go down, have everything ready. He'd been tailing her for weeks, collecting receipts, photos, timestamps. Now, as I lay there, staring at that cracked phone screen, I knew I had motive, proof, and the upper hand. Emily thought she was celebrating my collapse like it was her victory lap. But the man in this hospital bed wasn't the one she'd manipulated for years. This version of me had nothing left to lose, except the chance to make sure she lost everything she thought she'd won. The hospital room felt like a cage, but my mind was already outside, plotting the first move. Emily thought she'd slipped away clean, but every lie she told was a breadcrumb I'd been collecting for months. I wasn't the man she left unconscious on the kitchen floor. I was the one who'd been watching her unravel our life, piece by calculated piece. My brother Mike burst through the door an hour after I woke, his jaw tight, eyes scanning the room like he was looking for someone to punch. "Where the hell is she?" he growled, dropping into the chair beside my bed. His Seahawks cap was crooked, and his knuckles were white around a coffee cup. I shook my head, voice still raspy. "Gone. Appointment," they said. Mike's curse was low, venomous, aimed at both of us for letting it get this far. "You want me to do something?" he asked, softer now, like he knew I was already planning. "Just get me home," I said, "and give me 5 days." Back at Mike's place in Seattle, a cramped duplex with a view of Puget Sound, I sat on his lumpy futon, a heating pad pressed against my aching ribs. My laptop glowed in the dim light, a lifeline to the trap I'd set months ago. 3 months before my collapse, I'd updated our life insurance policies during a routine company audit. I'd added a clause: if I became incapacitated, the beneficiary list would be reassessed. Emily, distracted by her new beginnings, didn't notice I'd removed her from 2 of the 3 policies. She thought I was too buried in work to care. She was wrong. I'd also hired Mark, a private investigator recommended by a colleague whose own marriage imploded over a forged signature. Mark didn't look like much, graying stubble, cheap windbreaker, but his eyes were sharp and he worked like he had all the time in the world. I paid him in cash, meeting him in a diner off I-5 where the coffee tasted like regret. "If I go under," I told him, "have everything ready to hit." He nodded, no questions, just a notepad and a handshake. For weeks, he'd tracked Emily's moves: hotel receipts from Bellevue, late-night texts, a new savings account in her maiden name. He'd even snapped a photo of her car parked outside a spa in the Arts District, the kind of place that charges $200 for a massage and calls it self-care. Now, as I scrolled through his encrypted email on Mike's futon, the evidence stared back at me. Timestamps, bank transfers, a screenshot of Emily's Instagram post, her sipping a mimosa, captioned "Freedom tastes better than I imagined." My stomach churned, not from the hospital's lingering nausea, but from the audacity of her betrayal. She'd been siphoning money from our joint account for months. $300 here, $700 there, always round numbers to avoid suspicion. I'd called the bank weeks ago, flagging inconsistencies to their fraud division. The rep had been curt: "Authorized transfers, sir. IP matches your home router." I didn't argue. I just saved the logs. Emily thought she was clever, using my old login credentials to access our accounts. She didn't know I'd kept a backup of her phone synced to our iCloud, a mistake she made 2 years ago when she wanted to share vacation photos. Every selfie, every location tag, every late-night message to someone named Chase was mine to see. One stood out: "You smell better than him. Can't wait for next time." Sent at 11:42 p.m. on Valentine's Day, while I slept upstairs, thinking she was out with coworkers for Galentine's. I didn't confront her. I just added it to the folder labeled evidence on a USB drive I kept in my nightstand, hidden under a dog-eared copy of The Catcher in the Rye. Mike poked his head in, holding a beer. "You sure you don't want me to call her out? I saw her car at a gas station on Maple yesterday. Looked like she hadn't slept." I shook my head. "Let her think she's winning." He frowned but didn't push. I opened my laptop again, pulling up the bank's fraud dashboard. A new alert. A $2,500 charge for a designer handbag, followed by a $32,000 transfer to a corporate expense account I managed at work. My breath caught. That wasn't our money. That was company money, tied to a travel fund I oversaw as department head. Emily had used an old proxy login, an intern's credentials from a reorg 6 months ago, to move it. She thought I wouldn't notice. I did. I dialed the bank's internal fraud line, the one I'd saved when I first suspected her. "Account 5523, suspicious activity," I said, voice steady. "Freeze all pending transactions." The rep typed fast. "We'll need documentation, Mr. Johnson." I smiled, though it felt more like a grimace. "It's already in your inbox." Next, I called HR. Emily was listed as a dependent on my company health plan and 2 insurance policies. "Remove her," I said. "She no longer qualifies." The HR rep hesitated. "Are you sure, Mr. Johnson? You'll need to sign waivers." I didn't blink. "I'm sure. And flag any access attempts. She has my old credentials." By morning, the first domino fell. A voicemail from Emily, her voice sharp with panic. "My card's not working." "What the hell did you do?" I didn't answer. She'd gone to that spa in the Arts District, the one she snuck to during her errand runs. Mark had photos of her car there, time-stamped, including one from a Thursday when I was home with the flu. The $212 charge for a massage bounced. I leaned back on the futon, the heating pad warm against my ribs. Emily thought she was dancing in the dark, but I'd already turned on the lights. She just hadn't seen them yet. The truth doesn't shout. It whispers, and you only hear it if you're listening. For a year, I ignored the whispers in my marriage, but now, on my brother's creaky futon in Seattle, I was all ears. Emily's lies had left a trail, and I'd been gathering every scrap, turning her carelessness into my weapon. Last year, our home had gone quiet. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that feels like a house holding its breath. Emily's laughter came late, like an afterthought. Her kisses missed my lips, brushing air instead. Dinners were spent scrolling phones, not talking. Sundays used to be ours. Yelling at the Seahawks on TV, her feet tucked under my legs, a beer in her hand as we mocked bad calls. Then she started stepping out for fresh air during halftime. I didn't question it at first. Maybe she was restless, I told myself. Maybe it was stress. You make a lot of excuses when you're afraid of the truth. But her coat told a different story. It didn't smell like our lavender detergent anymore. It carried a sharp, spicy scent, like cologne I'd never wear. I asked once casually over coffee. "Someone bumped into me at the store," she said, rolling her eyes. His cologne was so strong I nearly choked. She laughed it off, but the smell lingered week after week. I let it go, telling myself not to be paranoid. Then the bank alerts started. Small at first, $200, $400, dripping out of our joint account. Nothing big enough to scream trouble, just enough to raise an eyebrow. I called the bank. "Authorized transfers," the rep said. "IP matches your home network." I didn't argue. I just started downloading statements, saving them to a USB drive I labeled Taxes 2024, and hid in my desk drawer. Emily never touched it. She thought it was for work. Her wellness retreats were the real red flag. She'd book them during my busiest weeks, claiming she needed self-care. One was for my birthday, at a boutique hotel in Bellevue known for couple spa packages and blackout curtains. I found the confirmation email in her iCloud, which she'd synced to our shared account years ago and never disabled. I didn't confront her. Instead, I added it to my folder, along with a Lyft receipt from the same weekend and a $180 charge for 2 candles and a bottle of whiskey I don't drink. She knew I hated whiskey. The worst was a message I found, timestamped 1:17 a.m., sent to someone named Chase. "You make me feel alive again." It wasn't just the words. It was the photo attached, her in a hotel robe, smiling, a wineglass in hand. I was at home that night, asleep, thinking she was at a team-building retreat. I didn't yell or slam doors. I copied the message, the photo, the metadata, coordinates, device ID, all of it, and saved it to my drive. Every photo she took was a landmine, and I was mapping the field. Mark, my PI, was worth every dollar. He didn't just follow her, he built a case. He tracked her to a high-rise in downtown Seattle, where she'd met Chase for coffee. His photos showed her car parked outside, her silhouette in a window, even a grainy shot of them laughing over drinks. He pulled bank records showing transfers to a new account in her maiden name, opened at a branch in Bellevue. The IP address tied to the transactions matched our old router, the one she still used because she never bothered to change the password. Mark even got a copy of her Instagram DMs, where she bragged to a friend, "He'll never figure it out. Too busy with his spreadsheets." I wasn't too busy. I was building a fortress. By the time I collapsed in our kitchen, clutching my chest and gasping her name, that USB drive was my insurance policy. It sat on my nightstand, under a book I never finished, waiting for the moment I'd need it. Emily must have seen it when the paramedics came, but she didn't check. She was too busy running toward her new life. As I sat in Mike's duplex, scrolling through Mark's latest report, I saw her latest post. A selfie at a rooftop bar, captioned, "Starting over feels so good." The date was the day I woke up in the hospital. My fingers tightened on the laptop. She thought she was free, but she just stepped into the trap I'd been setting for months. I called Mark that night. "Send everything to Greg," I said. Greg was my lawyer, a shark in a cheap suit who didn't advertise because he didn't need to. I'd met him years ago through a colleague whose ex tried to forge a loan. Greg won that case in 3 weeks. "You want this quiet?" he asked when I sent him the files. His voice was calm, like he was sizing up a chessboard. "Or do we go loud? Social, financial, the works?" I paused, picturing Emily's smug smile in that rooftop selfie. "Legal," I said. "Permanent. Make it hurt." He chuckled, already typing. "Don't talk to her. Let her think she's still in control." I hung up, staring at the Seattle skyline through Mike's window. The trap was set, and Emily was dancing right into it. The Seattle rain tapped Mike's window like a metronome, steady and relentless, matching the rhythm of my resolve. Emily thought she'd outrun me, but every move she made tightened the noose I'd been weaving for months. I wasn't chasing her. I was leading her to the edge. On the 3rd day after my hospital stay, I sat in Mike's garage, now a makeshift office with a flickering bulb and a desk buried under old Seahawks programs. My laptop screen glowed with the bank's fraud dashboard, a map of Emily's recklessness. A new alert popped up, a $4,000 transfer attempt to a leasing company, flagged and frozen. I leaned back, the chair creaking under me. She tried to secure a high-rise apartment in downtown Seattle, probably picturing floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Puget Sound. The leasing office got my email that morning, a polite note with redacted bank statements showing her income was a house of cards. They'd revoked her application by noon. I called the bank's fraud division again, using the internal line I'd saved when I first spotted her transfers. "Account 5523, update on the freeze," I said, voice flat. The rep confirmed, "All transactions blocked. We've flagged her maiden name account for review. You'll need to submit a formal complaint for federal escalation." I'd already sent it, PDFs of her unauthorized corporate transfers, time-stamped and cross-referenced with Mark's reports. The big one was the $32,000 she'd siphoned from my company's travel fund, using an intern's login she shouldn't have had. I'd forwarded the IP logs to our corporate legal team, subject line, Potential unauthorized access. They were already digging. Mike wandered in, handing me a coffee. She called me, he said, frowning. Screaming about her card not working at some spa. Sounded desperate. I didn't look up. Good. Let her sweat. He raised an eyebrow but didn't push. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from Emily. Her voice cracking. Eric, my cards declined. What did you do? Fix this. I deleted it. She'd been at that Arts District spa again, the one Mark had photographed her at, laughing with a guy in a too-tight shirt. The $300 massage charge bounced, and I knew why. The bank had locked her out, just as I'd planned. I opened my laptop to Greg's email, my lawyer's words sharp and to the point. She's building a paper trail of fraud. Keep her spending. The more she tries, the deeper she digs. He was right. Emily was still using our old joint passwords, the ones she never bothered to change since we set up our Netflix account in 2011. Her phone, still synced to our iCloud, uploaded everything in real time. Receipts, DMs, even a draft of her Serenity Wellness business plan, typed on my old MacBook. She thought she was launching a brand. I saw a confession. I called the leasing office next, posing as her estranged spouse with urgent updates. The property manager's voice was crisp, professional. We're reviewing her file, she said, typing as I spoke. Her deposit account is under dispute. We'll need to re-verify her income. I smiled, knowing they'd find nothing but a fake pay stub she'd mocked up in Canva, claiming she was a wellness strategist, earning $8,000 a month. I followed up with an anonymous tip to their tenant screening agency, attaching redacted proof of her frozen accounts. By evening, her lease was voided. No condo, no view, just a weekender bag and a car with a blinking check engine light. Mark sent a new report. Emily at a motel off I-5, the kind with thin walls and a flickering vacancy sign. He'd snapped a photo of her outside, clutching a plastic coffee mug, scrolling her phone like it might save her. She wore the same hoodie from her New Beginnings Instagram post, now creased and tired. I didn't feel triumph, just a cold satisfaction. She drained our accounts, thinking I was too weak to notice. Now she was learning what happens when you underestimate the quiet ones. I dialed HR next, my voice steady. Remove Emily as a dependent from my health plan and insurance policies, I said. The rep hesitated. You'll need to sign waivers, Mr. Johnson. This is permanent. I didn't blink. Send them over. I also asked them to flag any access attempts. She'd once used my old credentials to check my benefits portal. Not anymore. By morning, her access was cut, and I had a signed confirmation in my inbox. Greg called at dusk, his voice like gravel. She's panicking. Tried to dispute the fraud hold with the bank. Claimed implied permission because she helped with your expenses once. He laughed low and dry. That won't fly. I've got her digital signatures on every transfer. We're ready for court. I nodded, staring at the rain streaking Mike's window. File it, I said. No delays. He didn't ask twice. Emily thought she was still dancing in the dark, but I'd already flipped the switch. The spotlight was coming, and she wouldn't like what it showed. The Seattle courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, a cold space where truths came to die or be reborn. Emily sat across from me, a shadow of the woman who once lit up rooms, now in scuffed flats and a borrowed coat that sagged on her frame. I'd waited for this moment, not with anger, but with the calm of a man who'd already won. The judge's gavel cracked, and the room stilled. My lawyer, Greg, laid out the evidence like a surgeon arranging tools. Bank statements, IP logs, screenshots of Emily's Instagram posts, her smug New Beginnings caption from the day I woke up in the hospital. Every transfer, $4,000 to a leasing company, $32,000 from my company's travel fund, was time-stamped, tied to her phone, her fingerprints on my old MacBook's keyboard. Mark's photos sealed it. Her car outside a Bellevue hotel, her laughing with Chase at a rooftop bar, her fake pay stub claiming she was a wellness strategist. The judge's eyes narrowed as he flipped through the file, each page a nail in her coffin. Emily's lawyer, a nervous guy in a cheap suit, tried to spin it. Emotional distress, he stammered. She acted under pressure, believed she had permission to access funds. Greg didn't blink. He slid forward a voice message from Emily's iCloud, her voice clear and mocking. He's too buried in work to notice. The courtroom went silent, the kind of quiet that chokes you. The judge glanced at Emily, who stared at the floor, her hands twisting in her lap. Her lawyer asked for a recess. I leaned forward. No need, I said. We're ready. The ruling came fast, sharp as a blade. Full restitution for the misappropriated funds, $68, $212.47, plus penalties. Her personal accounts remained frozen, pending a federal fraud review. The divorce was finalized. No spousal support, no claim to our home, no share of my pension. All joint assets went to me, backed by proof of her financial misconduct. Emily blinked once, slow, like she was waking from a dream she couldn't escape. Her lawyer whispered something, but she didn't respond. She just sat there, hollowed out. I stood, gathering my folder, and paused by her seat. Her head was still down, her shoulders slumped under that ill-fitting coat. I leaned in, voice low so only she could hear. You chose this path, I said, not cruelly, but with the weight of truth. Her eyes flicked up, searching for the man who used to forgive her late nights, her excuses. That man was gone, buried the moment she left me in that hospital bed, thinking I wouldn't wake up to fight back. Outside, the Seattle air was crisp, the sky a bruised gray over Puget Sound. Mike waited by his truck, tossing his Seahawks cap onto the dash. You good? He asked, glancing at the courthouse. I nodded, the weight of the last year lifting like fog. Better than good. He didn't press, just handed me a coffee from a nearby stand. I sipped it, the warmth grounding me. Emily's Instagram was dark now, her new life posts gone, her friends silent. Mark had sent one last photo. Her at that motel off I-5, staring at her phone, a plastic coffee mug in hand, the glow of a neon sign reflecting off her tired face. She'd lost everything. Her condo, her credit, her reputation, because she thought I was too broken to notice. The bank sent a final letter that morning, forwarded to an old shared email by mistake or desperation. Her fraud dispute had collapsed. The corporate transfers were deemed intentional. Her implied permission defense laughed out of review. Her sister, who once called me dull but reliable, had blocked her number after Greg shared the financial records. Even her old happy hour crew, the ones who cheered her soft life posts, had ghosted her. The HOA president's wife, who once praised Emily's visionary retreats, now changed the subject when her name came up. I drove past our old house later that day, the one I'd kept in the divorce. The lawn needed mowing, but it was mine, free of her shadow. I thought of our Sundays, shouting at the Seahawks, her toes under my leg, the way we used to be. That life was gone, but so was the silence that had poisoned it. I'd spent a year feeding that silence, thinking it was peace. Now I knew better. Truth doesn't just set you free, it clears the board. As I pulled into Mike's driveway, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, probably a burner. I'm sorry, Eric. I messed up. I stared at it, the words hollow, too late. I deleted it without replying. Emily had danced in the dark, thinking she'd won. But the lights were on now, and the stage was empty. I stepped inside, the rain tapping the roof, and started planning my next chapter. One where I didn't look back.